It's a new day and opportunity is in the air. This is Philip with Soul Insights, and you are tuned into Good Morning Market, where everyday businesses are empowered to lead their market with the latest in market news, insights, and strategy. Everybody is 2022 now. I know I'm a little late to the game. We didn't hit off the very beginning of the year with an episode, spend some time with the family. Feel like my batteries are recharged, but it is 2022 now at the time of this recording. We've all got our plans. Season 1 was awesome. Thank y'all so much for everybody who tunes in to Good Morning Market and makes it what it is. Now we are officially, as I speak, in Season 2, and I've got some big plans for y'all. I'm sure y'all also have some big plans. That's what January is about, making our resolutions, making our plans. And you've probably got some big aspirations for your business, for your growth aspirations. That's going to involve what? A strategic marketing plan, hopefully. A good, strong marketing program that's going to be bigger, better than ever. Well, where do you start when you're talking about all your marketing objectives and strategies? I'd say a good place to start might be your brand, believe it or not. What is your company? Who are you? What image do you want to convey? What do you want people to receive and see in you around the community with your customers? That's a good place to start. And that's why in today's episode, we're going to talk with Sandi Prosnitz from Logoed Goods. She's going to talk to us about branding, the core of your brand, why it matters, why it's important, and ways that you can evaluate your brand and then strengthen your brand so you have a good foundation upon which to build your marketing program and all of your business development strategies for the year of 2022 so you can hit your goals. That's awesome. And it's part of a even bigger project and kickoff we're taking here in Season 2 on Good Morning Market. But before I tell you a little bit more about that, let's talk about what happened this previous week in your business world. So first, coming from Market Roundup, let's talk about some employment numbers. That's important to everybody. From ADP, their National Employment Report, private sector employment increased by 807,000 jobs from November to December, according to the December ADP National Employment Report. Also, we have some new data coming from a survey conducted by YouGov. Their new consumer survey showed that 2 in 3 consumers see no boost in their personal finances in this year, 2022. And finally, wrapping up, some quick news from across your market. Everybody's talking Omicron with the COVID-19 newest popular variant, so I figured I would weigh in by just sharing some quick data for y'all. Here's the latest on the stats on COVID-19 in the state of Georgia. Weekly cases per 100,000 citizens are at an all-time high, according to data shared through covid-georgia.com, while COVID-related hospitalizations are at levels comparable to late September of 2021, and also reported death levels of death are at some of the lowest levels on record for the pandemic. And that is your market roundup for this week. Just before we get on the interview with Sandi, before we bring her on, I wanted to quickly share with y'all something really cool that I hinted at in Season 1 as we were wrapping up. So, I'm really excited about planning. I love marketing. I love to talk about strategy and growth, and I want all of us to hit all of our goals this year. So to be a value add to all you movers and shakers out there and business development gurus out there, I wanted to talk about all the things, all the aspects, tactics, strategies, principles, practices that are involved in a great marketing program. That's why this episode is the first of a long, lengthy, multi-month series that we're calling the 2022 Marketing Marathon Kickoff, in which we're going to cover, a large swath of topics that are involved in you having a kick behind marketing program. We're going to start all the way from the core of your brand out to different types of content you can use within your marketing channels and the different aspects to leveraging that content to its full potential. We're going to talk about different strategies and tactics and channels and trends and principles. We're going to talk with all kinds of business leaders. So, on today's episode, I'm bringing on Sandi from Logo Goods. On a couple episodes, you'll hear from me directly, but for the most part, I'm bringing in these different thought leaders and experts to kind of share their knowledge on all of these different marketing topics. Let's take something that can be as complicated as possible, and let's talk about the high level stuff with each of these disciplines. That way, as you listen to this podcast, as you're kicking your ear off, and this will last probably, through March, really, you'll have these resources and thoughts to help you as you're looking into your options and what makes the most sense for you based on what your overall business goals are. So this is episode 1 of that. This is episode 1 of season 2. That being said, let's go right into it and let's bring in Sandi to talk about your branding for this year. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce y'all to Sandi today. We're going to be talking branding. I don't know of much better way to kick off discussions about your year and your goals, what you're looking to accomplish within your marketing program than talking about your core brand. And Sandi Prosnitz is a great person to bring in because she's not only a graphics designer, a promotional products expert, she's also the owner of Logo Goods, a custom branding and promotional marketing company. So Sandi, thank you so much for joining Good Morning Market. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Philip. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm ready to talk about one of my more favorite topics, although I'm not a branding expert. I certainly enjoy and appreciate it. So before I get into that, this actually is the first Good Morning Market episode dropped in 2022. We're all feeling pretty good and optimistic about ourselves, I would think. Are you a New Year's resolution person by chance?
I used to be, and then I stopped being. And this year, I have a new approach to New Year's resolutions this year, and I do have a New Year's resolution. Mm-hmm. But I think that. So I'm sure most people quit on their New Year's resolutions within the first 36 days after setting them, right?
Oh yeah, if that.
Literally 36 days and done, if they last that long.
Right.
And I realized this year that I think the reason that happens is because people are not setting SMART resolutions. Mm-hmm. So in business, we've all heard of SMART goals, right?
Yep, the acronym,
yep. What is it?
Specific, measurable, attainable,
relevant, and
time-based.
Right. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. If you just set a goal of, I want to quit smoking, or I want to lose weight, or I want to travel more, mm-hmm. none of that is specific enough. And by 36 days in, you're kind of overwhelmed because you don't have those specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound elements to your resolution. So what if you set a resolution where, you're looking to lose weight, but you know that maybe the one thing that's holding you up, like I go to the gym 5 days a week. I know that's not my holdup, but man, that pantry is so tempting when we all work from home, especially this past couple of years, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
So what if the specific, measurable, achievable, blah, 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 right? Was I am going to log my food intake, right? That's super specific, super measurable, 5 days a week. So now it's achievable because we all screw up once in a while. And so we're allowing ourselves already to screw up days. Relevant. Well, measuring and tracking and logging your food intake is very relevant to losing weight, time bound for the first 3 months of the year.
Okay. Yeah. So you take that elephant, you take them into a lot smaller bites.
Right. And I think that makes a New Year's resolution or an anytime resolution more attainable, more feasible, and maybe more stick-to-itable so that it lasts more than 36 days. So this year, that's my approach to the resolution.
No, I like that. I mean, and I'm a big New Year's resolution guy. I love planning and dreams and thinking big. But like you said, if you're not smart, if you're not doing the smart version of it, like what you're talking about, I think it becomes you versus your ultimate dream. And it could be too abstract, too grand. And then when things don't magically just start coming into place, it's easy because it's just not going to look like whatever your dream was, right? So if you can break it down and make it a little bit more structured, it makes that journey a little bit more fun, a little bit more manageable, I would guess.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, everybody, hey, that's some dropping some knowledge on you right at the beginning of the episode. You could just turn off the episode right now, and Sandy's already given you guidance for business, personal, whatever your New Year's resolution is. If you're a New Year's resolution person, I say don't be a cynic. Okay, set goals and resolutions like your marketing goals, like your branding goals, and then like Sandy said, hey, make them smart. That way you can stick to it. So, branding, it's an interesting conversation, because it means so many different things to so many people. I would say, at least from my standpoint, there's a lot of attention on branding these days. There's a lot of companies who will claim to be involved in branding. So maybe you could just quickly, what's one way that, if not defining branding, but what's one way that you think about branding and you think is very helpful for someone who's not in that world all the time?
So to me, branding is not just your logo or your colors or your, I don't know, your strategy, your identity. It's who you are as a genuine individual. We are all the faces of our businesses, especially those of us who have small to medium businesses, local businesses, not huge corporations. Who knows who the face of Walmart is, right? But you're the face of your business. I'm the face of my business. So we are our own personal individual brand. So to me, that's really one of the most important things is the authenticity of you or me as an individual. And that's the beginning of your brand, is who you are.
No, I think that's really good. And like you said, especially for us small business owners, these businesses or entities that we create that pay us money and pay the bills, they're a certain extension of who we are personally. So there's this really close relationship, if not some overlap, between our personal brand and then our corporate brand. And I also love the way you put it, that it's much deeper than what people will initially see, which is, I saw that logo, I heard that tagline, I see that their colors are this and that. I actually wanted to get your opinion on something, speaking about what all is a brand, a company brand, is I saw something really cool on LinkedIn, which is just, he said, okay, at the front top layer, yes, it's your logo, it's your icon, it's your color scheme. And that really is important. I don't think you or I are trying to poo-poo that.
No, not at all.
Then you go a little deeper, and then there's more of the messaging. There's like your story, okay? Like, there's your value proposition or your history, or, if you were designing a commercial for what your business was about, that's the brand story, and it's even more important. He even said, go one level deeper. The most core part of your brand is your beliefs. And I think that was reflecting on what you were saying. It's who you are. And so you really have to think that deep of a level to really understand what your brand is, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I saw you tagged me in that post, and I actually went and read it. I was like, okay, what's he talking about here? And I went and checked it out. And absolutely, I think it goes very deep into the core of the individual and into the authenticity of the individual. But the story is also really important, because the story is what makes you and your brand relatable to the clients that you're going to attract. And at the end of the day, that's what you're looking to do with your brand anyways, is attract clients.
Right. And that goes to a really important point is, I hope that we have a broad spectrum of people who tune into this podcast. I know you and I are more creative people. And so we love just getting into this for its own sake and its own value and, this creative exploration. And we kind of got even a little philosophical on there. But, for the operator, those great business owners who are just like in the business to business, it's dollars and cents. They're just driving growth. For some of them who might not think, when I think of my profitability or my financial goals, or I think of my bottom line, I don't really associate the brand with being important to that. What do you think is the bottom line value, or the core business value of a really good brand for your company?
The core business value of a good brand for your company.
Right. How does it tie to the bottom line, like making money? Like what's that, that business value of having a good brand, other than looking good or feeling good or being authentic?
Providing good service. I think that is, to me, that's got to be the number one and the core of at least what I do with Logo Goods. My business is the best service that you can possibly give, because that's what's going to set your brand apart from all of the others. I mean, you're not the only guy who does marketing out there, and I'm not the only guy or girl who does promotional products. Everyone can buy their logo on a bottle a dime a dozen, right? But there's got to be something beyond that that makes you want to work with the individual. And that's all about service and giving the best service possible, if that makes sense.
Okay. So that's help us understand, okay, what is the business value? What is all encapsulated within a brand? So when we're looking at 2022, we've all got these big visions and goals. We're going to make this much money, go into this market, get this many customers. Brands can be a great help or a great hindrance to those goals. So, whoever's listening to this episode right here, they finish this episode, they're listening to Sandi talking about corporate branding, and then they go look at their own branding. Okay, now I know it's more than the logo or the tagline or the colors. And they take a look. What are some things that they would need to be looking for so they can evaluate if their brand is in a good position or if it's become a little dated or it's going to be a hindrance?
So part of that really is the colors and the logo. I know that that's surface stuff that we're talking about, right?
But it's still important.
But it is important. So I was at a luncheon not too long ago where the person presenting was talking about the evolution of the Guinness logo. The heart, right?
Yep, I was there too. Yep,
you were. Okay, so do we get to say her name? Can we shout?
Oh,
her?
Absolutely. Yeah, she's a previous guest.
She's amazing, right? And Jess was.
Hi, Jess. Just in case you're listening. Hi, Jess.
Right? Hi, Jess. So she was amazing, and she was talking about the evolution of the Guinness logo, and that's really huge to stay relevant to your audience by evolving with time, with your audience, with life. That matters. Branding colors are not just about, oh, my favorite color is purple or, oh, my favorite color is blue. Branding colors, and that's what this right here is the psychology of the colors of your brand. Pantone, which is one of the probably the biggest printing ink company for specific ink colors that, that we print on shirts and logos and bottles and pens and phone cases and all of the things that we print things on, right? Pantone is the brand name. And every year Pantone comes out with a color of the year. And those colors of the year, this year it is, it's like a periwinkle blue. And they've even coined a special name for it. And they're talking about why. Why is it this color? Last year there was a yellow and a gray. And
is that like I'm a dull guy? Is that why I've heard my wife talk about like that's this year's color? Like you'll go into different retail stores of clothing and you notice these colors continue to show up in these different retail fashion apparel kind of thing. Is that because there's these different seasonal colors that become themes for a season or something?
So I am a self-proclaimed fashion abortion. One should never look at me for fashion advice ever, ever, ever. I dress like a toddler if left to my own devices.
I thought I was tracking. Now I'm just lost. Maybe I took it too far with the seasonal colors and I went straight to clothes and stuff. Oh well.
Yeah. So there's that. So I have no idea. I don't know about that. All I know is that in my newsfeed, because it's relevant for me and what I do and the websites that I search, right? I see the Pantone color of the year and the feeling that it's supposed to invoke. And all colors evoke feelings. So a lot of it has to do with what feeling do you want your brand to evoke? What feelings matter to people? And that's another way to represent your brand is not just thinking about, oh, it's a pretty color or they go well together, but what feelings do they evoke? And are they the feelings that you want people to have evoked when they think of your brand?
So maybe when bringing it home, when someone's looking at their brand for 2022, like you said, they need to evaluate their identity. They need to evaluate their story. They need to evaluate the core values and what kind of experience, the kind of service they're looking to have someone experience when they work with them. So if you're saying that, like, I don't know, that there's a mismatch, like what those colors naturally will tell or emotional responses they'll naturally evoke aren't in harmony, it's not like there's a bad color or a good color. Certain colors work for certain companies and whatever. But if it's a mismatch or not optimized with what the core of your business is, what you deliver, what kind of experience, then that might be a sign, oh, okay, maybe these colors used to work and the company's evolved, or they just really aren't as good as they could be. That could be a sign, okay, maybe I should look at my brand identity.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's all about, and not just what your business used to represent, and maybe your business has evolved, but what the cross section of society that you want to speak to.
Right.
Because
markets change.
The markets change, and people have changed. Society's changed so much in the past couple of years that the message that is actually going to speak to people is totally different than what might have spoken to them 3 years ago or 4 years ago or 3 years from now.
Right.
And so staying relevant matters.
It's interesting is it could be like, I know this is like a minor detail, but once again, I like branding, even though I'm not a branding expert, is like, for example, like gradients, I've noticed have started to come back. So like even if it becomes like a certain style that was popular maybe 5-10 years ago, that's part of your logo today, do you want to come off, dated, or could you just give your company or your brand a 2022 facelift, and I think gradients are even coming back, but even it could be those small things too, could it not? Like where certain typefaces come and go, certain styles of designing the identity come and go, color schemes come and go. So you want to make sure that you look current while also honoring your history, especially if you're an older company like a Guinness, right?
Absolutely. I was down at this trade show the past couple of days and wandering around this huge hall full of all sorts of promotional products vendors. And of course, every single one of them is brand conscious or should be brand conscious and color conscious. And I wandered into the booth of one of them that I've never heard of before. They were brand new to me. And everything was super bright and super primary colors and retro. And I was talking with one of the owners and I said, well, I've never heard of you before. And they said, well, our brand evolved during the past 2 years during the pandemic. And we've really become a brand that when I walk into our showroom, I feel like I'm on an old 1980s MTV set. And I looked around me and I was like, oh my God, yes. And that's probably why I'm standing here with a big smile on my face, because I'm a child of the 80s and that appeals to me. So if your audience is the late 40s to mid 50s something crowd that grew up in the 80s, then mental note, use that MTV threw up all over your brand color theme, because it sucked me in and I wanted to hang out in that space for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, I've read many articles about, there are a lot of companies, depending on, like you said, it depends on who your customer is, what you are, like you can't just force it, is the power of nostalgia. Like I've seen it make a comeback, nostalgia invokes like good memories, childhood, reliable. Like there's a lot of things that nostalgia can do for you, in the same way that some companies have a more futuristic brand vibe. And so they're wanting to look like they're pushing the envelope and they're next generation. Certain companies that would work great for. Other companies, like you said, if they have a lot of Gen Xers, and maybe they want to go with an MTV vibe and it works for them and it helps them stick out, right?
Absolutely. On another hand, I had a meeting last week with a new client, and she specifically said to me, watch the movie, was it Tron Legacy? Because that's the vibe she wants to invoke as we're working on products for her, with a very futuristic, high end, and that kind of a feel, because that's her target market, that's her clientele.
Right. And once again, grounding this back to earth is like this is where like some people are creative, and she already had a kind of a vision and a feeling. Other people, that's not their thing. And so they could bring in like a Sandi, and then you could help them understand, like if they could tell you what they are passionate about or what kind of service, then you could help build, from that foundation, build the rest of the house in terms of the brand.
Sure,
But, my question for you is like, when you're working with a company on their core brand, what are some of the high level thoughts? Like if someone brings you in and say, hey, it's 2022, we haven't looked at our brand in 7 years and we're seeing some warning signs, what are some of the things that you'll look at so you can appraise whether or not we need to do tweaking or maybe even a rip and replace of that brand?
First thing I would look at is who's your target audience?
Mm-hmm.
Who's your market?
Right.
If you can define your target audience, then we can figure out how to reach that target audience by whatever the demographic is, whether it's male or female or old or young or dog owners or parents of young children or whatever that demographic may be. But that's the very first thing that I always look at, whether it's that someone wants to buy a giveaway product or redo their whole look and feel of their logo and their business and all of their marketing materials.
Right. Is that because, the brand has to resonate, right? You have to make sure that your brand resonates with your target market, that they see it and they receive what you're trying to send.
Right. A lot of us have heard and we'll hear a million times over, your vibe attracts your tribe. Well, if your vibe is your brand and your tribe is your clients, then your vibe needs to attract the clients that you want to attract.
Okay. And that's where you would even go. That's where you would go into your element. You'd even go into the weeds of like the color psychology to make sure that everything audible, visual, everything speaking the same story, telling the same values, going down to the core of what the company is, right?
Absolutely.
So now that we know that's the way branding's supposed to work, let's get back to the real world. You've been in this line of work for quite some time, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of really cool brands and a lot of great brand practices, and you've seen some what not to do's in branding. So, what are some of the no-nos that you'll just friendly, warn business leaders and marketing leaders in our area about? What are some of the no-nos that need to be avoided when it comes to branding?
The first one that comes to mind, and it's right on the surface, but it matters, is don't buy your logo from a cheap website or download some garbage clip art that looks like everyone else's.
But it's free. It's free, Sandi.
Yeah. And you know what? There's so many things that you could look around and go, if it's free, it's for me, but it's going to cost you money in the future and down the road.
Okay.
Same client with the Tron Legacy vision had her logo. She bought her logo for $10 from some online supplier. And now she wants to start using this new logo on some things. And I said, great, I need vector art. And
what's that?
Exactly.
I have a JPEG file from the internet.
And a PNG file. Yeah. And here's everything that the designer who charged me $10 created for me. And none of it's vector art. And I said, okay, go back and ask for these possible versions. Well, a week later, she's got nothing. And now she's going to pay for me to recreate it for her.
Right.
Look, I don't care if you hire me to design your logo or not. Hire somebody who's going to design you a logo that I'm not going to have to recreate and charge you money to fix for you.
Right. And I hate to say it, but like even if you're not doing promotional products, which that, if you're putting your brand image on physical things, it creates a whole nother level. But a lot of us, especially as entrepreneurs, when we first start out, we get these logos, however we get them, and you think this one file, you can just, blow it up or shrink it down and compress it down, and it's going to be able to fit all of your digital needs, much less physical needs. I know for that from my own experience, but what have you, I'm sure you've seen that many a time where you got these super pixelated, ugly, you can tell that they're, I don't think deformed is the proper term, but they're corrupted kind of looking images because people just don't have the right assets to properly represent their company in all these different spaces.
Right. And that makes you look unprofessional. And that makes your brand look unprofessional. And that's not the image. I don't care what your branding is. I don't care who your target audience is. That is not the image that you want to represent.
Right.
That's not the foot you want to put forward first.
Right. You don't want to look like you don't, no one wants to be taken not seriously. Everybody wants to be treated like, I'm sure you want to charge like you're taken seriously, but first impressions are super important, right? So if you've got a super pixelated image and you have the right tools, when you go to that online website to get all your mugs printed out of your pins, and you're trying to take that one JPEG file you got for $10 and stretch it and compress it, I'm sure you've seen some interesting looking pins in your time.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're ordering from some online website and you don't have someone holding your hand and taking care of you and making sure that you are represented well through whatever you're spending your money on. And let's face it, you work hard for that money. You should be represented well with whatever you're spending it on. So now you've got nobody holding your hand with a logo that you're sending in that is not the right format, not the right file format or setup or anything for the item that you're ordering. Now you've got a double negative, and in this case, a double negative does not make a positive. It just makes bad things.
Yeah. One other thought I had, and it's from my experience, is that I think that with some businesses, some small businesses who might not be big into branding, they'll see their 10-year-old logo or their 15-year-old logo, 20-year-old company image, and they'll be like, well, I don't need to make it newer and fancy because this is the way it's always been. And, my customers appreciate it and it's endearing. And, it's kind of cute that it's simple and not super corporate, fancy looking. But, my thought is, if these companies want to grow, and if they're operating in any kind of decent sized metro area, like even our area, Savannah, it's a transient area. You have people moving in and out. It's not like everybody's been the same for 20, 30 years. If they see that your image is stale and old and, simple, and it's not evolving, it's not trying to stay, bold and staying current, I've got to think that that's going to affect your ability to get in new customers, because these people who don't know you, they're just going to get that brand identity first impression. And if it looks old and tired, they're not going to give you a fair shake.
Absolutely. I've got a good friend who owns a fudge company, and her logo and her font are out of the 80s. And not in a good way, not in a retro way.
Not a nostalgia way, just
no, not at all. In a this font needs to be retired. It had its time, and its time is over kind of way.
Right.
And I tried to encourage her to update and let's see what we can do with this. And I mean, I was going to do it as a freebie because I love her to death and the fudge is good. But she loves her logo. And it's been that way, like you said, for years and years and years and decades, and just refuses to evolve. Yeah. And lucky for her, the fudge speaks for herself, for itself. And she goes out and she does these tastings and wine pairing events and whatever. And people don't really care what the logo looks like at that point. But if I was looking for a fudge company online and I had never tasted her fudge, the outdated look of that logo, of her brand, would make me question whether or not I want to take a chance and bite in.
Right. And we can all critique that as business owners because we have some emotional connection with whatever our brand currently is. But frankly, we all do the same thing. So, I guess that tricky line that you can help your clients work through is, it does need to represent them. It needs to be something which the owner or the leaders or the people can identify with. But at the same time, it has to resonate with, your target audience. Right. So it's got to do both. Right.
For sure.
So bringing it home is, as we're looking forward, people are hearing this, are like, okay, I need to take another look at my brand. I need to take a look at, what this brand does for me or against me and my business goals. What is your parting advice on how businesses can effectively execute a strong, consistent core brand image?
Keep in mind that branding is not something that you snap your fingers and make happen. It's a process, and it's what puts out that first impression of your business, of your company, of yourself, your personal brand. And remember that it can evolve.
Mm.
Just because you design it today doesn't mean that it has to look exactly like that 6 months from now or 6 years from now. It evolves just like you evolve, just like our world evolves.
Mhm. No, that's beautiful. I almost thought of it as a tie-in all the way back to our New Year's resolution conversation. Is so many people they're trying to get in better shape. They'll treat it as a project where everything has to be just so, and it's like I'm going to do this for 2 months, and then that's the end of the story, and everything worked out. No, it's for example, with a lot of these resolutions, like getting into shape, it's a identity decision. It's a lifestyle decision. So maybe in the same respect, because you said branding is not just let me drop this many hundreds of thousands of dollars on updating my colors. This is a decision, like my identity as a company needs to reflect these core values, this core service, and because everything is always changing, that's going to be an ongoing decision of who you are in making that decision to make sure that your identity properly represents where your company is and where your company's going.
Absolutely.
So, I love this branding conversation. The thing is branding is really important. It's a lot more nuanced than that free logo maker than that some of us have used in the past. So, if people are hearing this conversation, they're like, you know what? I need to take a look at my brand, but you know what? I need to bring in someone who can help me. Or maybe they're saying, hey, I like my core brand, but I need to get my brand out there. I need to, have a way to leave behind, reminders of my brand with my customers or whatnot. Tell me a little bit about what Logo Goods, does and how people can get in contact with you if they want to have that dialogue.
Yeah, sure. Logo Goods, I like to say that, we will put your logo on anything, but not just that. We can create your logo for you if you don't have one or if you need a new one. And then we can help you find the absolute best products and pieces to put your logo on to represent you to the audience that you want to be represented to. My background is graphic design. I've been a graphic designer for 30 years. I got into promotional products 15 years ago. And that's really where my passion is. I get stupid geeky about the latest pen that comes out. There were pens at this convention in Orlando. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's a stinking pen. It writes just like all the other pens, but
people remember a good pen. They do.
Absolutely. So what I do is, more than anything, is I make sure that your logo, whether I create it or someone else does, is going to look absolutely perfect on the printed product that we procure for you. That's from business cards to postcards to door hangers to banners to 10 by 10 event tents to pens and water bottles and pop sockets and mouse pads.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty much the gamut. So, if they wanted to have that
and all that too.
Yeah. So, that said, like what's the best way to get in touch with you if they'd like to look into that?
Yeah, sure. Best way to find me is my email address. I'm super responsive via email. Sandi, Sandi, at logogoods411.com. And you can also reach out via Facebook and Facebook Messenger. You can find us at Logo Goods on Facebook. Logogoods411.com is the website. And you can give me a call at 912-421-9108.
Perfect. Sandi, thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think it was a great way to kick off 2022 when we're all thinking about, our marketing goals and business growth goals. I think if we don't have that good foundation of the core brand, we could really be setting ourselves back. So thank you for sharing your experience. And like I said, I can speak from personal experience. If anybody is looking for a resource to have, as they need it, or if they know that they need to look at their brand right now, or they need to get their brand more out there, Sandi's going to do a great job taking care of you. And like she said herself, she's got 30 years and 15 years experience in graphic design and promotional products. She's worked on a lot of different clients and gotten experience in a lot of different brands and situations. So she can bring that experience and creativity to help your business. So Happy New Year, Sandi. I can't thank you enough for joining Good Morning Market, and we'll catch you around next time.
Thanks, Philip. Happy New Year to you too.
Well, that is all for today's episode. Hopefully you got some of the value that I got, because I know I took a ton of notes and really had some good thought provoking conversation with Sandi in terms of how I'm going to appraise my brand, how I'm going to be more consistent in executing my brand this year. It's going to be imperative to what I'm trying to achieve in my business. So you have your abilities to connect to Sandi. For next week, we're going to be talking about, as you're needing to gather data on the core of who you're targeting, what segments of the market you're trying to capitalize upon, who is your core customer, you need data and good data to really have a pulse on the market so you can set your strategies, your tactics, your budget, your resources. That's what's so imperative about any kind of good marketing plan. You got to do some marketing research. And so in next week's episode, we're going to talk about marketing research, more specifically understanding who your core target customer is. That ideal customer profile is what some people call it, the ICP. So that'll be the topic of next week's episode. Get ready for that to drop this coming up Monday. Thank you all so much once again for listening to Good Morning Market. I'm excited about what season 2 is bringing, and I need your help to make this podcast even better. So 2 things you can do. If you have feedback, and I love all feedback, good, bad, and indifferent, it's all good marketing research for me, email me, philip2ls@solinsights.com with any kind of feedback you have on the podcast, what you love, what you hate, what you think could be improved. This podcast is not as good as it's going to be, and it's not as good as it's going to be because I'm going to continue to ask for your feedback, and I'm going to continue to respond to this audience's feedback. Number 2, if you found value in this podcast, if it helps you, I don't know if it's therapeutic and puts you to sleep, or if it is very thought-provoking and innovative and helps you generate good ideas to go take into your business to make a big difference, let some of your colleagues know about it that you think would also enjoy that material. And as we go through the rest of this week, I wish everybody the best in the new year. And remember, in order to lead your market, you must first hear and know your market.